and welcome to Celebrity Gist on Fresh News TV, where we'll bring you one-on-one interactions and interviews with celebrities around the globe. I am Crystal Damiglo, your host on the program. With me in the studio today is Lulu Okonkwo. She is a UK-based Nigerian actress, but says she's willing to start her career now in Nigeria. Lulu Okonkwo, glad to have you on the program.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so can we start by meeting you?
Yes, my name is Lulu Okonkwo, as you rightfully said. I am an actress, and I recently moved back to Nigeria to pursue that wholeheartedly.
Okay, so I understand that you studied social work in University of Brunel before going to your acting career, and social work is not a common course here in Nigeria. Could you give us a background?
Social work involves children in care. So it's entailed around children that their parents are incapable of taking care of them, or maybe they lost both parents at birth. Basically children that the governing system takes into their own care. They fund their weekly bursaries, upkeeps, things like that, and they assign each child a social worker. So one social worker could have like a caseload of 100 children, and the children's sector is actually the most sensitive one, and I did not want anything to do with that one because I can put you in a lot of trouble with mistakes. So yeah, it's basically your duty to go into homes, to monitor, to be critical in your analysis, to know whether you feel that a child might be in potential danger, and if the child needs to be taken away from the home, or as well, because a lot of people think that social workers just go to take children away from homes, is to look at how we can facilitate the needs of the parents if they're lacking in certain areas. Because our first decision is not just, okay, we're taking the child, because it actually incurs more cost for the governing system, but to see how we can facilitate their needs in their actual homes, because it's important for children to be raised by their parents, because it does have an effect on you. And if it's worse comes to worse, that's when the children are taken into our care and they're put into homes or fostering, whichever way, whichever section. That could be section 20, another section. So yeah, it's our duty to identify things like that, and you go through intense training at university. You have the practical and you have the theoretical. So that's the assignments, and then you have where they put you out in the actual field of work. You carry out home visits, and you have to analyze and say, is this home safe for the child? So yeah.
Okay, so aside your acting career, do you think this course you have prospects here in Nigeria based on that course? Definitely.
I wouldn't say that social work was my passion. It was not my passion, but there were segments of it that had me in it, and that's just the assurity of humanity, the assurity of someone's safety and happiness. So it's definitely something that Nigeria needs and Nigeria lacks in the section of care that they're trying in terms of like orphanages and things like that, but it's not just orphanages that's going to do the job.
No proper supervision.
Exactly, supervision to see what's happening in a lot of homes. So just because somebody's not an orphan doesn't mean that they don't need that kind of care and attention. You might have two parents, but the home could just be a complete havoc, and that's how children raise up, deciding, I want to join a cult, I want to do this, I want to do that, and that's what social work tries to prevent. So by the grace of God, futuristically, hopefully I plan on bringing that and implementing that in Nigeria, but not just by myself. That would need a lot of force of people to do something like that, because there's a lot of children that roam the streets, and that's not normal to see.
Well catered for.
Exactly.
Okay. So why acting? What motivated you to go into the movie industry? Well,
I've always I wouldn't say that I was born acting from the moment they brought me into my mother's womb, but I definitely knew I was never born to be forgotten. It just took time for me to find my path, and the problem these days is that you tend to live your life for people that you probably never will speak to or have the littlest atom value of input in your life, because you want to say you have a degree or you did something, you went to university. So you end up finding yourself doing things that actually has absolutely nothing to do with your ordained destiny. But the thing with the God that we serve is that he will let you do that to teach you a lesson, and he'll say, this is not for you, because I was ready to be miserable just to say I had a degree. And sometimes when God's trying to move you, he'll frustrate you out of it, or he will do the job himself if you don't do it. And I believe that's what God did for me, because I knew it got to a stage where I knew that it's time for me to pursue my acting career. But even at that stage, I wasn't confident enough for it. I wanted to have something that would give me a systematic income as well as pursuing the acting career, but it's impossible to do that because you could be needed on set at any given moment and you can't be doing an office job. That's another thing with acting is humility. You have to be able to say, okay, I'm a waitress or I clean or whatever it is, so that you have that availability to say, I can't work today, I have to be here. And that's determination. And yeah, those are the things that I needed to build up slowly to accept for me to come this far. But then even at that, with the job that I was doing and then also being in London, there was series and stages that God had to take me through. He said, no, I want to take you home. He said, your people need to know you first before I propel you into something else. Because I was trying to break through into Hollywood from London.
We're actually coming to that. We're coming to that. Yeah. Okay, so back to your coming back to Nigeria. Lots of Nigerians are like, you have better prospects in the UK. So why Nigeria? Like, why do you choose to start your career first here before going back to the Hollywood, if you would like? My reason why is because I'm not really moving in the physical. I'm moving according to what I've been instructed to do by God, and that's a big problem. Is why Nigeria can be stagnant sometimes. Is because the people that have hefty talents and gifts are investing it somewhere that's not in their motherland, and then we're complaining about the motherland as well, but we ourselves have not invested what God has given us. So looking at it in the eye can see in a carnal way, yes, everybody's right. Why would you want to make that decision? But then also we have to give Nigeria credit. They have come a long way in the movie industry. They've come a long way in filming, in editing, things like that. And you can't wait for something to be perfect before you join, because that just doesn't make it real for you. It means you're an opportunist. You're not actually coming to invest. You're trying to come and take fruit out that you did not plant. And I want to be a part of the planting. So how would you rate Hollywood and Nollywood if you had to compare the two side by side?
I would say that Hollywood looks a lot more into detail with the craft of what they do. Like with editing, with the microphone, there's one thing that does really hurt my feelings when I'm watching Nollywood that takes the reality away from it, is when you can see a big square lump on the back, which is the microphone.
Yeah.
So somebody's in the middle of a scene of domestic violence and they're screaming, "Oh, please no!" And then you see the microphone pack and you're like, "This isn't real," as it takes away the reality for you. Even though they are good actors, it's just that sometimes the attention to detail, when you ignore it or when you neglect it, it completely renders your script useless. It renders things useless that could actually could have been put on a higher pedestal. But then another thing with Nollywood as well, as my positive with Nollywood, is that a lot of the things that Nollywood do are true. A lot of the things that Hollywood do is fictional. So
like
Nollywood,
the storyline.
The storyline. A lot of it is very fictional. But Nollywood is non-fiction, isn't? Even if the camera quality is bad, those movies that we'll watch back in the day where they'll shake the camera for thunder, or somebody did something bad to you and God is revenging you, it taught me something growing up as a child. It taught me God fights your battles. It taught me so many things about be careful who you trust. It tells you do not eat everywhere that you go. You get things like that. As much as it can make you laugh or it can be a joke, it's very true. And I feel like Nollywood has actually played a role in raising a lot of generations in knowledge of how Nigeria works, of how things work in life, and just really how you can handle things in life as well. So definitely.
So would you say we are meeting our international market demand?
Nollywood has developed so much, definitely. Definitely, when you have people like AY, Funke, Richard, all these people, Mo Abudu, investing their money and their time, because I feel like that's a place a lot of us need to get to, is where we're ready to give our own personal time, to give our own personal money to develop this craft. Because a lot of the time some producers or some people are probably waiting for actual funding from other people before they decide that they're going to shoot this great movie. But then you have people like AY that will dip his hand in his pocket and say, okay, let my bank be empty and let me promote Nigeria.
Get it right.
Let me get it right. Let me pay the actors what they deserve. Let me pay the cameramen what they deserve. Let me import people that actually know what they're doing. and deliver. And because of decisions they've made, you can see that through them you can see the potential that Nollywood has. Like, it's sold out in cinemas. It's ranked like the highest ever Guinness World Record for Africans, and a lot of people in Africa come to Nigeria to make it.
Yeah.
Nigeria is almost like practically almost the center of Africa when it comes to entertainment. So we have to give ourselves a lot of credit. And slowly but surely, you don't build everything in one day. You learn, because if you can't, we're not God. Only God doesn't need to learn, because he makes no mistakes. So, yeah.
Okay, so coming back to you now, what would be your criteria for choosing your script? Would you, give into any script, or you make your selections and check out the storyline?
Absolutely check out the storyline. Just because you're trying to invest in your country doesn't mean you should just throw yourself in the pit for everything. There are certain scripts that are just probably written overnight and they haven't thought through it. It doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have a middle, it doesn't have an ending, and the movie doesn't make sense. And if you're promoting that, as in, the whole point of me sowing a seed is not just implementing my talent and probably funds, but also criticisms, as in, I'm sorry, I can't partake in this, because that's just encouraging what people are already probably trying to assume about Nollywood. This script needs better work. I wouldn't just hear, okay, there's a movie opportunity, and I'll dive straight into it. I want to see the script. I want to know, okay, what camera are we shooting with? What are we doing? What's the location? Like, what is happening? What's the story behind it? I want to know that it's definitely impactful. If it's comedy, let it be comedy. If it's this, as in, it has a system. It has an organization. So yeah, I wouldn't be just accepting any scripts.
Okay, so there are some actors and actresses that can't fit into certain roles because they feel like it's not their thing, and then we also know that some actors and actresses are stereotyped for particular kind of roles. For instance, if you want to think of a wicked mother, or
Patience.
Yeah.
So, you didn't have to say it. Yes.
So can we also, would you be versatile, or you'll be stereotyped a bit, to be known for this posh, classy roles?
Absolutely. If there's one thing I encourage actors to be, is versatile. Because one thing I know within the acting industry is that you do not want to be typecasted. And that's what you're talking about, as in stereotypical role. They call it typecasting, as in the moment you decide, okay, I'm going to play this prostitute role once, second, 3 times. Anytime someone writes a script, they'll be writing it with you in mind. And it's like, it's very, you create a huge pillar for yourself, a huge wall to climb over for somebody to offer you another role to show what you're made of. It's very important to be versatile. You can't play the abusive husband every single time, because I know that's what they did to Mike. All his movies, he was abusing someone. I said, this is not fair. I'm sure this guy has a talent. Or like Bruce, I said Bruce, Jim Carrey. Known as Bruce on my Jim Carrey, he's always playing comedic roles where you can't take him seriously. And I actually watched a movie with him where he was serious, and I couldn't believe
he could
do that.
Same with some jokers, like some
exactly. And I said, this is the kind of talent that is hidden because of typecasting, and that's why it's important as actors to learn to say no. Sometimes, as in, okay, no, I don't want this, I want this. But when you keep saying yes, 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 you keep being portrayed in the same way. And eventually people will actually now say, maybe this is how the person is in real life, and they don't want to step out of their comfort zone. They don't want to be a nice person, they want to stay wicked. No, definitely versatile.
Which is wrong. Coming up next is our Celebrity Crush segment. Don't go anywhere, stay with us. Welcome back. You've been watching Celebrity Gist, and with me in the studio is Lulu Okonkwo. Okay, so tell us I know you've been working with a lot of celebrities over there, and they've been inspiring you. Tell us a little bit about your inspirations and your encounters with them.
Yeah, so the school I attended, they were just an amazing school. And what they would do was they would bring in actors from Hollywood to train us, and to give us a piece of what Hollywood is like, working on set, things like that, Meisner. And it definitely added to my career as an actor and me as a person being an actor. and they just take you through things of stages of becoming an actor and getting that film that you really want, because a lot of people want to be overnight successes. And when you see people succeeding, you think that they are, but they're really not. And by the time you speak to them one-to-one, you realize that they go through the same thing. They went through the same things that you're going through, wondering, because if you decided to dedicate yourself to being a full-time actor, it's a risk, especially if you're not in Hollywood, because you need to pay rent, you need to pay bills, you need to feed, you need to pay your phone bills, you need to do all of that. And if you're putting that off jobs that you can get in acting and theatre, it's definitely a very big risk. But it's a risk that they took on, or even things like moving. Like, they inspired me in terms of moving back to Nigeria. Not that they told me to, but the stories that they had when they said, okay, I left the country and I moved here with only $500, $700. I'm thinking, if they can do that and it's not even like they had family there that could help them, then what exactly is holding me back from making that life-changing decision for me? Not that I'm doing it because they did it, but I knew it was something that I needed to do, but I just didn't have the courage yet to do it. So when you hear it, sometimes you don't know what you're planting into people's lives unknowingly. And that's why I say, people will hear of you and see you more than you will have the opportunity to actually encounter them. So what you do can go unnoticed, but you don't know who you're helping and who you're not. So their advice in terms of being patient on set, sometimes a director might want something a certain way. You may feel like you want it this way, but you just have to put your head down and get the job done. There's no need arguing, there's no need disputing. Build positive rapports. Like, the industries are very, very small industry. Everybody knows each other, and the worst thing you want to do is to build a negative name for yourself, because every other opportunity that comes up, your name's been blacklisted. Like, okay, no.
She's going to be quarreling with the directors. Exactly.
And she doesn't take direction, because there was a guy, I remember they told the story, he went for an audition. He sang and the casting director said, okay, I'd like you to do it this way. And he said, no, I think the way I did it was better. And he said,
wow.
I'd like for you to. I mean, he was surprised the casting director repeated himself.
Exactly.
And he said, no, I'll do it my way again for you. And he never received the call back, and literally been blacklisted. Like, nobody wants to give him that opportunity. And even changing the words of a script, paying attention to detail of script, what is written there. If they said with you, make sure you say with you. Don't say you with.
So that means you're cramming your lines.
Yeah, literally. As in, like, say, sometimes they give you the opportunity for improv, but you need to make sure you have that kind of relationship, not feeling like, okay, maybe what they wrote is not good enough, I'm going to add my own. Okay. Because there was a guy that literally, he reached the last peak for being selected for a very big Hollywood movie. And because he changed the line, he did not get it. Wow. It was still the same thing, but because he
changed, changed.
Yeah, exactly. So because he said it differently, they gave it to the other person and not him. So it's definitely a case of paying attention to detail, making sure you know what the casting director wants, what the producer wants, and also never forgetting who you are as well at the same time. It doesn't mean you should become a robot. There's no harm in making suggestions. There's no harm in going out of your way to say, okay, I have a top, things like that. And like, sometimes people fall short, because you need to remember that even though they're shooting a film, they're still human. They're not perfect. Yeah. So you can't go all diva and say, I thought I was going to have 3 outfit changes. Nobody would want to work with you again. It's like being able to accommodate people's mistakes and be patient with people. Exactly, and tolerating everybody is definitely a big plus for producing magic, because if everybody was so stiff and perfect, a lot of these movies that we made these days wouldn't have come to pass.
Okay, so which movie has been most inspiring to you, maybe based on the ones you've done in the UK before moving here, or in the course of your study, you've encountered, which has been most inspiring to you, the storyline or a particular scene?
There was a movie that I watched, it was called Blind Side. I believe it was Blind Side. It had Sandra Bullock, Sandra Bullock in it. It was basically, she went into the ghetto and the projects, they call it, and she took in a guy that is just a complete opposite stereotype of what a white rich lady would want around her. And she went down there and she saw him and she saw potential in him and she brought him into their area of living, and it was just not the norm for him. Brought him into her home, gave him his own room. He was like a giant. He was supposed to be an American football player, and she's just petite, small white woman with a white husband and a white child. But the child got on so well with him, and he had, as they lived together, they realized that as different as they were in the exterior, they were pretty much the same on the interior. And the way that she stuck up for him in the presence of her friends, because that's one thing a lot of people failing in life, is that they feel like when they've gotten somewhere, it now means that you're on a different level, and it now means that you must change your heart, and it now means that you must start thinking of yourself higher than people. But that movie definitely taught me morals. It taught me never assuming. It taught me about taking risks where all the odds looks like it's against you, just to impact somebody's life. And it definitely, that movie was just smooth throughout, because I can be a huge critic, not just of Nollywood, of Hollywood as well. Like I can say the movie of all those it was just so bad that I can't even remember the name. It had Will Smith, it had a bunch of, it even had Viola in it, and I look up to Viola, and they're all supposed to be superheroes, and it was so bad. It was so cliche. It was just, I couldn't. Suicide Squad.
Okay.
This is literally how I watched the whole
The movie was horrible.
Yeah. Not that it was horrible, but I just expected so much more, and they failed to deliver. And that movie taught me that it's not just about having great actors, it's about having a good script as well. You can have a terrible script and hire an actor with 70 Oscars and 50 Grammys and Golden Globes. It will still be a terrible movie. So it just goes to show the script writers can actually be more important than the actors themselves. And that's where they get, if it wasn't for the script writers, the actors would never have been known. So I feel that script writers need to understand their value, and they need to actually see themselves as more important than the actors, because if it wasn't for you, we won't be able to portray our craft in the way that we do.
Okay, so lots of our viewers right now are so eager to hear who your celebrity crush is. So just tell us, in Nigeria and in Hollywood.
In Hollywood, I would definitely say it's, actually absolutely, there's one, Morris Chestnut. That's that guy. And Omari Hardwick, you know, the main character from Power. Don't know if you watch Power.
Nah.
Okay, Power, yeah, Omari Hardwick. And in Nigeria, do you know what? I never actually had a crush in Nigeria. And
seriously?
No, I never actually had a crush in Nigeria until recently, and it's actually Lynx. But the only reason why is not because of how he looks, as in, you know who I'm talking about. Okay, yeah, it's not because of looks, but because of how he's turned his life around in Christ, and just the pursuit of God and things like that.
The God factor again.
Yeah, the God factor. That's what I try, because it's not easy for me to say, hey, this person, as in like, yeah, you can think so. Because I think Morris Chestnut, a lot of the roles he plays, he's always been good to people. He's always been this kind of person, that kind of person. And yeah, but then with me, it comes with a lot of mental capacity, what you're carrying in here and in here as well, other than just looking at someone at face value. So yeah, if I were to say my celebrity crush for Nigeria is Lynx.
Interesting. Okay, there's this popular rumor going around. It used to be really, really bad before, but I don't know right now, that upcoming artists, especially the females, face a lot of intimidation before the producers and directors and they would like to sleep with them before they give them a lead role, or before they bring them before the camera. So what's your reaction on this?
I think it's an absolute joke. Like, I'm sorry, I can be a person that's very brutally honest, and for somebody to ask someone of something in order to promote them, in order to allow them to show their talent, is a sick joke. It's very sick, and it's definitely not something I'd be playing into. I'd rather go poor and beg before I allow myself fall a victim of something like that. So it's definitely something, it's not just in Nollywood.
Certainly, for someone like you, well exposed, you know, and you have so much to bring to the table, it might not really happen to you, but we're talking about the naive ones, you know, who just probably left their state or their village, and they have this burning desire for their voice to be heard, you know, in their generation. What would you do to curb this in the industry?
Okay, first of all, it's your level of influence. Because if you already have a level of influence, there's so much you can do, and that starts with you being strong in who you are. Because it's not just about one person. It's not just about one person deciding, okay, I'm going to put a stop to this, but it's also you as the individual that's being pressured into it, saying no. Because I feel like by the time collectively, if producers are asking for things like that and everybody's saying no, they will eventually learn how to do things properly. Because if nobody is willing to sleep
and then
with
look
you,
forward to the competence.
Exactly, because if absolutely nobody is willing to sleep with you, then you'll realize that you have no actresses. And there's only so much films you can do with men alone. So as well as you looking for somebody that can be a role model in ending this kind of thing, one person can never do it. It also involves you, because I can stand here and stick up for everybody as much as I can, but if you're agreeing to it, that's where my limit is, as in I can't physically come in and then arrest you and then be arresting everyone. I'm not the Holy Spirit. I can't do it. You need to have your own conviction to say no. You need to have the strong faith to believe that if I say no, I know God is going to take care of me. And that's where my sanity comes from. That's why I'm free to reject things that looks like it can be such a great opportunity if you just, but because I've had opportunities in London for certain films, but because of what it entails me to do, I said no. Because I'm not, the moment you start diluting your morals, people will now help you to pour water and pour water until it's now water and it's transparent. You don't have a voice anymore, you don't even have a name anymore, you've forgotten who you are, you've forgotten where you came from, you've forgotten your upbringing, and people treat you how you allow them, and they will continue because you never stopped them. So from the beginning, I believe it's important to nip it in the bud from the beginning, instead of saying, I'll compromise, before you realize you've gone the whole way. But even if you haven't gone the whole way, because you compromised on one, they'll ask you, well, you did this, so why can't you do that? So it's very, very important to stay strong in who you are as well, and just trust that what is yours will certainly come to you, because we don't serve a God that sleeps.
That's interesting to know, because you know, lots of Nigerians, they don't want to take it step by step, they just want to fly to the top, you know, so maybe that's why they get themselves messed up along the line. Okay, so tell us about your social media, and trust me, lots of Nigerians are looking forward to following you on Instagram and Twitter and all that, and then especially your Instagram. Why do you choose that name? Tell us.
Okay, I have two Instagrams. I have one, Lulu_Ada. Lulu is my first name, and Ada is the name my father's mother gave me, my grandmother. So that one's just my personal page where my fans can get to know me on a personal level. And I also have another page called Chronicles of God, and that's the gospel page for where I, like, as the Holy Spirit talks, or even just simple things that you go through in life. Something, just your day, just your time in a whole day can teach you so much about God without Holy Spirit or God or Jesus having to appear in front of you and tell you this and tell you that. And that's where I get my quotes from that I put on Chronicles of God, because I want something that people can actually feel like this is a reality. Because there are so many inspirational Instagram pages, but what they say a lot of the time doesn't hit home. As in, you'll get a lot of quotes that say, don't give up, God is there. Don't give up, God knows where you're going. Okay, that's
keep
nice.
Pushing.
Yeah, keep pushing. That's really nice, but why? As in, like, make sure you forgive people. Okay, not for them, but for you. Okay, that's nice, but why? So I wanted a page where it would actually explain to people in short sentences, not long preaching, because these days time is moving and fast forward. So you need to be able to have you need to be able to capture people's attention in 3 seconds, and that's the whole essence of Chronicles of God, capturing people's attention in 3 seconds that can possibly change their life.
Wow.
Or help them make a decision in one day. Or like or like a 1 minute short video, 30 seconds video, nothing that is long that someone will say, I'll watch it later, because you need to be, the devil is a strategist, so you need to be a greater one at that. So when you know that people are struggling with social media, like they want to go on Facebook, they've got this to do, they've got children to feed, they've got runs, they've got this.
Just pass your message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How can I cut through to them in a split second that will not interrupt their day, that they're not going to have to put down their phone and say, I'll watch it later, I'll read it later, but is just as impactful as a 10-page essay as just that 1 line or 3 lines could do for their lives. So because I know how good God has been to me, and because I know how important wisdom is, because a lot of people seek for knowledge but they don't seek for wisdom, and that's where they destroy themselves. But then wisdom without knowledge is still wisdom. So I know how that has changed my life, and how that has kept me, and I want everybody to experience it so that they know that God is honestly there, and he's more than just I am the I am. Like, he's the kind of person that will crack jokes with you. He will use your life to make heaven laugh. As in, sometimes I find myself in predicaments where I look up and I say, I really hope that you're laughing hard right now, because I'm not laughing, because I know we serve a God with sense of humor. And just a lot of the times people fade and run away from church because they feel like if I start going to church, I have to start doing this way, I have to start doing this that way. It's not like that. So I just want people to understand the whole essence of a personal relationship with God that is fun, and you can happily live your life. You can happily chase after your destiny. You can be a billionaire and still be in the presence of God.
Serving God is not so boring and difficult.
Exactly. So like, I really like your outfit. It didn't have to reach down here, and you still look lovely. Do you get what I mean? So some people like have to be wearing turtleneck 24/7 because they're now worshiping God, and I really want to eradicate that kind of stereotypical Christian that everybody has in their mind.
All right. So just before we go, what's your advice to lots of Nigerians out there, especially the youths who want to be like you, aspire to be like you?
My advice is to stop wanting to be like me and start. No, I know exactly what you mean.
Okay.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm just saying that.
Go into the movie industry.
Yeah. Oh, okay, just the movie industry alone, or in characteristics and traits or things like that.
Mostly the movie industry, and then your other, characteristics and traits that are inspiring.
Okay, well, first of all, I'll tell you to check yourself and see if that's where God's sending you. Because one of the worst things you can do for yourself in life is create a delay that is highly unnecessary. So sometimes you want to do things because of how it looks on the outsketch or what you think is lavish, and by the time you get there, you realize that you don't have the capacity to sustain it, and then it could destroy you. So you have to first pray about it before you go there, because I didn't just watch people on TV and decide I want to be a star. I said, I know I'm an actor, I know that I was born to be this. Even though I knew it, I still prayed about it. Exactly. No matter how sure you are about anything, make sure you ask God first before you go, because that is the confidence you should have. Your confidence shouldn't be in your hair, in your clothes, in what's in your bank account, but it should be in the God that you serve, because you can go anyhow and still know that you are going to be the one that's selected. You don't want to go into an industry that you're wondering if you're going to succeed. You want to go into a field of work where you know you are going to succeed, because there's no other choice, because this is where I've been sent. And also in terms of God, definitely choose wisely the people that you have around you, because having 1,000 people around you, don't get swallowed by the crowd. Be swallowed by God.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much for coming around. We're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. All right, this is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of Celebrity Gist. Till I come your way next week, I am Crystal Damiglo, your host on the program.